podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you can please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee.
Yeah. So today we're recording across the country, folks who are currently on the SNAP program, which is, hold on, why can't I remember the acronym SNAP stands for?
Food stamps.
Food stamps.
Huh? So the new variation, not the old variation.
You know what I mean? It's
yes, it is a better
supplemental nutrition assistance program. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. Which is a major deal. Building off our last conversation, in a totally unnecessary way, because the SNAP program has actually built-in contingency funding that could be tapped to cover the distribution. It's a choice that the president has decided that, as a means to create political pressure on, I guess, the Democrats to acquiesce or not resist the double thing that's happening, which is folks are going to start seeing their Obamacare predicted costs, be thousands of dollars per month,
skyrocket. Yeah,
I mean, which is totally understandable. Like, it's, even as important as healthcare is, unless you are actively in a thing, if somebody suddenly tells you your health insurance is going to go from $500 or $400, even $600 a month to $2,400 or $3,000, you're probably just going to take the chance and try to live without health insurance. Just because there's very few people who can go from a $600 bill of any kind to a $2,000 bill or more in the span of come January. This is what you're going to be hitting for. Especially for something that is important and is also about, like, if you do have, a major illness arise and you need, deep care. I mean, I don't want to go off on healthcare today, but it's a lot of weird things about the way we do healthcare that doesn't center people. But on the food side, SNAP is a program that makes sure that folks have a little extra bread. 70% of the people who are on SNAP work full time somewhere. Other folks, in contrary to sort of the prevailing mythos of the, like, multi-child woman, no man around the house, whatever trope thing, the vast majority of people on SNAP are just people need a little, that whatever they do for a living it qualifies that they don't make enough, that by our own standards, which are not the greatest, that we say, damn, you might need a little extra $100, extra $200-$300 to make sure you can keep the food on the table for you and your folks. It's a very sad moment as a society, right? Like, food, it's one thing to feel like people, besides the raw policing that goes on around, like, what people eat, but generally it's like, I don't know how you be so up in arms around make sure people can eat. And for most of us, of our tax, considerations is like $36 a year or something that would, for most people, that's ending up as SNAP benefits. So we're not talking about some sort of astronomical figure to make sure, again, that kids can eat, families can stay above water, and can have what they need. So I think there's a lot of stuff here, though, because so with that, I think I said enough to get us started. What's some of your thoughts on this occurrence and this happening in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, a couple. I think about one is decency, and I don't mean that in a very moral sense. I mean that in a sense of, if, to your point, if people are working or if some people are not working for whatever reason, the idea to provide small supports, which are mandated and regulated, in order for people to be able to take care of themselves, is just part of a decency in a society, right? And I think what you see is a retrenchment from decency. And I think you see it in a lot of different ways. The political language, the language of the thrust of going back and forth, how people are identified in the kind of political commons, all reflects a lack of decency. And this is not me hearkening back to a time when rich white men sat in the room and solved things behind doors, per se. Right? Because that's what, people will say. It's actually about how do we take seriously the role of government. And even if you have a range of reasons of what you think it should do, you also know it should do some things like feed people who cannot feed themselves, and even if you have cost adjusted means testing to say, well, this is what it means to not be able to fully meet your own needs. And we actually create jobs that do not allow people to meet their own needs. Right? Like, if every job we created allowed you to do that, and I'm not, this is, again, does not mean playing economist this evening, but if everybody could work in a space to be able to take care of their families, and we all know what those things sustaining wages are, then you wouldn't need it. But you need it because of the nature of our economy. And then it was set up as a valve of decency and just realism. Or we're at a place where we're not even operating in that means anymore, in the most naked way. The Republican Party is operating in a way that is going to harm people and knowingly harm people. Right. So again, I think of decency. And kind of what it means. And again, I just think of that shift of what we think is important in the sense of politics could be looked at as a means to deal with scarcity, right? Like, at the end of the day, there is a finite level of money, a finite level of time, and then governments decide what they do with both, right? Yeah. If I was telling the kid, that's the bottom line. Like, everything else is your perspective of it, but that's what it is, right? And dealing with the scarcity, what we're choosing to frame as what will make people better, even in scarcity. I think there was a debate in the past. You could say, hey, no, I think we should do supply side economics. I think if you give money to these people, then this thing will happen. Then we can judge all that. But we've gotten to the point where that's not even really part of the dialogue.
Right.
It's just harming people based on scarcity. It's like you take scarcity and to make a decision to impact other people's scarcity, whether that's healthcare or whether that's SNAP, in pursuit of something else. And, I think more than ever, we see an attack, not just on the poor. We see an attack on those who are impacted by our society in ways that maybe are not like us. And there was a time where, all but a few people knew that you shouldn't attack the poor because you knew somebody poor, or, you were poor, or your family was poor. Like, you know what I mean? Most of us can't go back, but so far before somebody in our family was or is poor.
Yeah. Or I like to say a hot 10 minutes from being poor. Like, I mean, even if you like, yeah, I mean, we good. We we got enough. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's like it's fragile, or it's like we got enough, but your cousin, they struggling. You know what I mean? I'm gonna send this over to their house, or I mean, or your whoever is right on the edge. You know what I'm saying? Or there's a elder in the family that they ain't really got it no more, and somebody got to go over there and take them to the what's the name pantry and do some other moves and make sure they got enough food every month. Like it, even for some of us that in the present company, I've not reached the Olympian heights of others, but even for some of us who have reached, where you multiple 6-figure double income, y'all buy really expensive German cars and all that type of time. More than likely, you got somebody not too far from you that's like, ooh, it's tight. It's tight over here. Like, and like you may have various reasons why they may not have made the best choices, various things, woo, woo, woo. But the bottom line is still, it's not in the best. It's not in the interest of a healthy society to be like, well, go ahead, let them people just starve.
Right. It's not in the interest of anybody in our society that people starve. Right. Like it's just not.
There's no historical evidence for that leading to like, oh, the people they were starving. Then one day they said, man, we're gonna innovate a new way to make a thing and sell it, and now we're not starving no more. Like that's not what happens. Just for the people starve, they get desperate, and then usually they start as the urban poet Duffy would say, if my kid's hungry, I snatch the dishes out your kitchen. Like, nah, like it ain't gonna be me. I'm not gonna be out here without what I need. And I guess this administration wants to find out, right? Like what happens if, and I think, I'm sure there's the crazy thing about all things policy wise that happens. There's an academic somewhere like, oh man, this is a great natural experiment. Because we've been against this since the Roosevelt administration, right? Which I think if you haven't studied the Great Depression and U.S. history, and I don't even think you need to have no specific, particularly like leftist lens to have the experience to understand how like abjectly poor folks have been in this society at different levels at different times. Like, SNAP, as it's called now, food stamps, Social Security, were both born out of like people and people who, more or less did what they needed to do. They took jobs, they worked places, they took care of their families, and then found themselves, with the physical cost of the jobs they had. They were in manufacturing or construction and all the everything that you think people can do, even stuff that's just like, well, I mean, that's just working a sewing machine. Well, you do that sewing machine every day for 17 years for 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours. Like your body, your elbow don't work the way, your wrist don't, like everything has a physical cost. And people who otherwise were just did what they needed to do, will find themselves in just super terrible conditions. And our society said, damn, we can't really let them go out like that. Let's make sure we put a little, here's this little bit of food, money. They're going to drop some of the, different errors, drop the government cheese off and some bread or the no frills cans.
Oh, man. The white
whatever,
cans.
I mean,
the white cans. With the two, what's the names going on around them?
Yeah, I mean, like, it could be, I think people can forget in a way for those that, either for those that maybe they never experienced it or maybe they didn't know, right? Like they didn't realize, what I mean, when your moms was talking about, oh, I ain't hungry tonight, I'm just gonna lay down. You know what I'm saying? Like where people was taking something off the table to make sure their kids could eat, right? Where, like I said, I grew up with, one of the first things my grandfather told me was, you go to somebody's house, and I've said this on here before, but I think it's worth mentioning. You go to somebody's house, they offer you some food, and you hungry, go ahead and eat it. Don't go to nobody's house and ask for food, because you don't know what them people got. And they may give you some of what they have out of a courtesy, out of a wanting to keep up appearance, but they may not have it to give you. So don't go to nobody's house and be asking for food. Don't assume. And at your house, check in before you start being like, oh no, we can crack this open. We can make some more of these ramen. We got, ramen noodles was, there was plenty of ramen noodles go around when they was in season. But You know what I'm saying? Like food is a it's like sometimes you look back and you're like, damn, we ain't really had enough. We was kind of tight. Like you might have been like, I had enough, but if you've ever how you say have found creative reuses for various products because you was hungry at the school and
That's right.
Lisa Biles, like, I'm saying, mom was weren't gonna be home till around 6. And it was like, I don't eat the Jiffy cornbread no more, but I've done made Jiffy cornbread, Jiffy corn cakes, Jiffy crusts. I made all kinds of wild stuff out of some Jiffy, you know what I'm saying? Or out of sugar sandwiches, grilled cheeses, like all these things where the peanut butter and jelly, my kids had allergies and stuff, so we didn't get super deep into the PB and J. But I tell both of them, I'm like, look, man, sometimes when you live on your own, learn how to make you a choke sandwich. It might save your life. It might get you over the damn hump. And so like it's frustrating, to see clips of um, you know, uh, you know, uh, politicians at different levels going, oh, well, this program is rife with fraud and blah blah blah. I'm like, what fraud? Prove it. Where? You know what I'm saying? Like just because we allow these people to say these things, or those who should at least have a discerning and questioning eye allow these people to say these things and then be like, prove it. Show me where, like, beyond, again, like, yes, everything in our society, somebody's stealing. Like, yes, there's somebody gaming the system somewhere. It's a fact. It's going to happen. But a lot of other people was like, damn, glad we got them staff this month. You know what I'm saying? Like, to get you over the hump. You know what I mean? To get you through that moment. And it's frustrating and it's angering. And, then you stack on top of that, we have a society that wastes lots of food.
Right.
And then we straight up waste food. We got perfectly good food that we don't sell because it don't look right. We got perfectly good food that if it, restaurants burn through tons of food. Part of why those businesses are so hard to margin is because you end up, you got to prep for a certain number, and if the number come under or come over, you can't like just, there's sometimes been creative processes to get that to a food bank or get it to a homeless shelter. But a lot of times it just, a good percentage of that going in the trash and it's not safe. And it also, there are real, this person who's bouncing back from a stomach bug, like there really are real things where you can get sick eating food that's not in good shape. But yeah, I think it's I don't have easy answers that are not, I guess, that are new about this, but it's still something I think that what are the food security options like in the immediate, and then what are the food security options in the long term, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touch on a couple of different things. People, traditionally people have banded together. You only got to watch Good Times or whatever kind of show to see, people banding together in times where someone's not eating and people taking what they got and spreading it more. But, and that's individuals, and that's okay. That's fine. But we're talking about a society now, right? A society that has gotten to a point where even things like feeding people, and then when you put on the framing of people think that it's rife with abuse, and then it either has that tint of people of color, original people, or it has just poor people, and then some people just don't care about nobody that's not them. And so you put it on there when acknowledging that most people use it work. Most people use it aren't black and brown, right? So it's also a referendum on the economy. It's a referendum on the structure. And I think it was kind of like one of those things we go, all right, well, shit. Again, go back to my point. We hire people. We know they don't make enough to take care of themselves.
Yep.
Okay. So we provide some support to balance out what, frankly, the economy's not paying. Right. And that's fine. If we made that, if we made that tongue-in-cheek agreement, or not tongue-in-cheek, we're a wink and a nod, right? If we made that agreement, then that's one thing. But now we're breaking the agreement. And so it goes back to something you were saying before, where a lot of our government in America, say what you will, was not undergirded by actual laws more than just the status quo. that in many ways was created, in many ways was very harmful to people, but in some ways was like agreements made, and it was agreements made in rooms that you never knew about. And that's just what it is. And all of those agreements are being challenged, right?
Yep.
All of those norms of the basic, what I would frame as the basic decency of the federal government specifically, but not only, because again, Pennsylvania is currently, we have not had a budget since July 1, right? So, you see it at the federal and state, and shit, frankly, its own issues on local levels that play out different ways and maybe on different parts of the spectrum, but there's still part of those conversations there. So it's really, like I said, a referendum on our politics and a referendum on how do we view people, and also a really important thing that, like, you see it in movies, but don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the conditions that surround you that you may have been able to get past, but we have a structure in our society that's not happening, right? We have a structured society that we know, right? People are not making enough to take care of themselves and being able to provide the resources that they need. And to everyone who is, already kind of framing what they could do to act in service to other people, I salute you. The skate park the Messiah goes to, they cook tonight, so if people wanted to eat, they could just come by and eat, right? Like, so small gestures. And then you have local gestures where if the government is able to do it, to be able to call a food emergency and then be able to redirect resources for residents. So you're seeing that happen in places like Atlanta, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and other places, right? And then you also see it on the state level, right? And it's important to remember that states that are Republican led are still doing it. Why? Because they have to take care of citizens.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's like we're seeing responses that indicate humanity. And then at some point, we just need our politics to represent humanity. Take from that what you will. But that's what we need. And this is when you get to the local reminder that this stuff is about power. It's not about morality. Because people do what they have the power to do, until you let them know that they don't have the power to do that anymore. And the shaping and framing comes where they're in a different lens of power because of your power. And you can't separate that. And sometimes I think we'd like to separate power from our politics because it feels uncomfortable, especially for a certain group. It feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, feel squeamish to like want to be in charge. But then assuming that people that like you will be in charge to not harm you.
Yeah. And I think there's almost a, it could be based in people's, like deeper thoughts about the human reality, human condition, human experience, whatever, that they don't want to say out loud. That there's some people, which before we finish this conversation, there's a particular group of people I need to make a public address towards. But that folks could be like just like purely like really like, yo, like I have the power to do this, so I'm gonna do it. Right? Like people want some deeper, like, well, they're trying to like change the nature of the, no, I mean maybe. But also they like, I got the power to do it, so I'm just gonna do it. And that sort of arbitrary or apparently arbitrary, and like, what does that mean about people? And as I like to say, that most of us without a deep level of practice will then, making immediate, like, self, like, what does that mean about me? If I'm the type of person that would be, how you say, step over a person in hunger so I could get a discounted television on Black Friday, right? Like nobody wants to admit that there's some part of them that has looked past someone else is suffering, maybe at a time when it did not suit you. And that is not to find some, present company, to find some sort of super high ground or something, but it's something that you got to look at the ugly. Sometimes as a society, we have to look at, like some of these people are just mean. Like they're not, the populace. They're trying to, the economy makes them so frustrated. Yeah. And some of these people are just mean. I don't know why they mean. I can't call all the reasons, but they mean. Like everybody, I think most people, especially places that we've come from, you either had a neighbor and it was like Mr. So-and-so, and that motherfucker just mean. We don't know why he's so mean. We don't know what happened to him. You know what I'm saying? We can speculate, but that dude mean. He nasty to everybody. Like all the time. And at some point you just gotta tell, hey man, stay in the house when we walk by. Like, or leave my kids alone or whatever. Because he's just a mean dude. And you trying to, moralize and figure it out. He's had a hard life. He's seen like, yeah, but you better stay on away from my kids when they ride their bike down the street with all that mean bullshit. Right now that's a low level. But it's the, someone that would write a document and go, yeah, we're going to intentionally take a enforcement body that was started after 9/11, supposedly because we needed to be safe. We're going to like play with the rules so we can roust and joust people. You know what I'm saying? And, take them off the streets without due process or without proper communication. And then some of us is going to act like it's cool. Or like, that's a tolerable thing. It's not. Like it's a mean person. If somebody be like, yo, this family need like $200 of food benefits to get over the hump each month. And you like, fuck them. They better find that $200 somewhere. They should go work another job. Like damn. Like over $200? For real? Like this who you is? You know what I mean? Like I don't like, and then, the other popular notion at this time for folks who might think be more on our line from a policy perspective, like, well, some of these people just aren't informed. Nah, man, some of these people just don't care. They don't care to be informed. Again, I can't explain it. I ain't gonna speculate too deep, but it's like, yo, if you tell me, yeah, I don't care if the people starve, I'm like, all right, man, I'ma care if they come over here and steal yours. So I'm like, hey, man, don't steal that for them. They, that ain't cool. Like this could, again, there's an academic somewhere, there's a conservative academic that's like, oh man, I can't wait to see if crime goes up, right? Or if crime goes down, right? They're gonna be like, see, I told you crime wasn't about food, it was about some other shit, right? Like for everything that's happening right now, there's somebody, there's also someone who would be a more liberal, academic or whatever, whatever the terminology would be, who's like, yeah, we're gonna prove, when the crime rate shoots up, like I'm going to be vindicated. And it's like, yeah, but all of this is bad for us if we got to experience it, right? Like if somebody's neighborhood, get real funky for the next 2 months because kids are starving and people ain't with it, like that's not good for us, even if it proves your point. Like, because it wasn't ever about the issues that we have most of the time are not about the lack of logical data. It's about people's perspective of what they think is how the world should work, and then they impose that if they have the power to do so on the world.
Well, that's also touching into, I think, two other pieces of this conversation, which is the military, the law enforcement, military industrial complex, and the nonprofit industrial complex. Right? Again, a lot of this stuff was like government was out of it, and then there was a system that took care of stuff, right? And you didn't see it. And so as long as that system was functioning like that, then right on. But then if it doesn't function like that because of a situation like this and you want to create chaos, then you back up the law enforcement industrial complex that then is there to back up what happens when people act in response to not having enough, which is a direct relation to decisions that were made of scarcity, right? And so it kind of goes back to, and I know we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming mayoral election in New York in a second, but it goes back up to what captures people and what do people care about? And, pardon my, naivete here, but I don't think most people like a politic of not having or a politic of like zero sum game. I think most people like a politic they're ascending to something, even if what they're ascending to is bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. There's like a narrative where they're the hero in this.
they're the hero, and even if them being the hero creates a villain.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, you don't get it, the politics of saying, yo, they're gonna take your snap. We are, people already said it. Hey man, here's what's gonna happen, Project 2025. Oh man, that's not gonna happen. Well, all right. Here we are now, right? But you got to get people to saying, what do we want? And we do want a world that people are taking care of, and elected officials and the broader think tanks and other people and the advocates think about ways to do that. And I think this is willfully another example of what role do people want to have in their own agency and in the agency of others, like to be people in a society. In separating government and society, like saying this is a society of people who I want to be involved with. This is how I want to be. Because if we don't, what will continue to happen is there are ideals and people who will continue to press lines. Because what we've seen in the last 9 months is essentially the moving of the goalposts or the moving of the first down lines like we've never seen in a year in American society.
Yeah.
Like, and I say that, not to sound like Reverend Al Sharpton or Roland Martin there. But in all seriousness, we've never seen the status quo, like we talked about last week, of society move, and that window move so profoundly in 9 months, where we would even be debating this. Most of the times, responsible people from all parties get together and figure this out.
Right.
Like, so the time we're in where no one's figuring it out, and I deeply respect the fight for the Obamacare subsidies, because that also was a way that people will be harmed.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that we got here and nobody knew how not to get here before we got here is also its own issue about how we structure, how we're dealing with this form of scarcity. Again, this is not Obama hire politics. This is saying that when you're not paying attention, the window of what's normal with how you use a multi-trillion-dollar thing can change in front of your face. And it will take longer to go back to any other kind of form that you like than everyone thinks.
Yeah.
Like, I just happened to see the president on television. He was like, hey, well, they said I've done more in 9 months than anybody, so I got 3 years left. And I was like, well, damn, that makes me want to go listen to a Gil Scott song. But it was also, and I know, again, we'll talk about some of the other stuff happening, but it was said so earnest and communicated in such a way that I really did realize there are some people who are not necessarily great people who received that message. It was like, cool. Yeah. They're like, yeah. You know what I mean?
We just getting started.
Yes.
Wait till we do the other stuff.
A politics of inclusion that is designed to exclude somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hold your horses, put your hats on tight. I don't know, strap your helmet, whatever, buckle your shoes, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I got a lot more to add on to that. Like, outside of saying, one, if you, food resources available to folks, make sure people plug in. If depending on your circumstance or situation, you got a neighbor, you could break them off, with a couple cans or something, like look out for people. And then, especially you see a young person walk through the street with that look like they ain't ate, man, go get them something to eat. Like, come on, little bro, little mans, come here. Y'all eat today? Come on, let me get y'all something. Cause it is, some places there's a buffer zone and other places there is not.
That's real.
Yeah, some folks is like, oh man, we ain't getting them SNAP benefits on the first. We was waiting on that. Yeah, it's and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So I'm just making it a justice PSA before we take a moment to talk about the New York mayoral race. But there is a strain And the internet, the internet's crazy. It's filled with dumbness. But there's a strain of people who look like us, males, making videos, celebrating and dancing. And I understand that a part of that, there's so many different I've learned there's like people in other countries who like put together YouTube sites to like play on the social tropes that we have in our that deal with us like as Black folks, like for views and clicks. It's like really
Absolutely.
insidious. However, I know that there's some of y'all so-called brothers that y'all really think that. Y'all really think this is some shining moment that Black women are gonna get their comeuppance because whatever happened to you, however you and your mom's relationship went, whatever the hell was happening with your life, you ain't use a low belly, down dirty, low down dog, and he ain't even a dog. 'Cause at least a dog is loyal of a person. If you somewhere celebrating because somebody's family may not have enough food this month. And if that was the dividing line between you and a relationship with somebody you actually liked and wanted to build a family with, you got much deeper problems than that sister and them SNAP benefits. And furthermore, you got a problem with me saying it. I'm not hard to find. Get it together. And don't let me catch you in the street talking all wild. I just can't have it. We gotta put
you take it on the manosphere now, man.
I'm just
we done
saying,
went from
man.
various forms, man.
Look,
now
man,
we declare war to
man.
manosphere, man.
We go. I'm with all the. You know what I'm saying? Like you ain't gonna be up here on the Al Gore, Beyonce. Who else? They got to be a conservative that think he started the internet. Whoever's internet making these videos. And I know you like. Well, this will get me some clicks. This is great. It's like, yo, man, where's your character? Like, who are you? What kind of person are you? To be dancing in like a Costco aisle, like, you gonna want to see me this month? Nah, B. We don't never want to see you. Matter of fact, stay up on the way from around here, man. Like straight up. Like I'm trying to do the right thing with my life, and I'm trying to keep doing the right thing, but I can't abide that. If you see me, turn the other way. Like go the other way. Like I don't want justice. Just like, well, I'll say this for later, for the after talk. But put it like this: sometimes when you give somebody an appropriate straightener, next time they see you, they don't even waste their time trying to incorporate you in their foolishness. And that's how I live my life. So get it together, my man. That shit ain't cool. And I'm gonna try to keep it mellow because I am like, what I'm saying, I got responsibilities and stuff. I can't be out here making open threats.
We can't. We're not. I just want to say to all you Black.
I'm just saying, I'm gonna give you a very stern talking to, brother. It's real stern language. Like
Justice did not say he's gonna put his hands.
I'm not gonna do nothing.
I want y'all to legally know and understand that he
low
did not
down,
say he
dirty.
put his hands on.
You know what I'm saying? As Omar would say, I ain't think it was nobody that low down to shoot my grandmama crown on a Sunday. You know what I'm saying?
Sunday.
You know what I mean? Like, so anyway, man, cut that out. Get off the internet with that foolishness, man. Go help some kids or something. Go do something better with your life.
There's
yeah. You don't gotta be part of that. That's just Justice had to say it.
Well, I just had to make sure because I just, if you would just declare war on the black pill and all,
all of them, they can
all of them that wear big belt buckles and got the braids.
Keep it pushing, young buck. Keep pushing, player. Don't come over here with that. You would get no quarter. You know what I'm saying? You would tell me she wouldn't. She won't. Then now they gonna want to date a guy like me. Hey, dog, it wasn't never you the first place. It wasn't about your money, playboy. But anyway. So, Mamdani is, the election night's Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
I guess we've, talked about this. My question I would have for you on this is, what do you think happens? And I'm gonna say, I feel confident that the brother's gonna win. Yeah. So what do you think happens with sort of the establishment entities that all up and out? Like, what's the response? Like, especially if he like crushes, like if he just like mobs out on him, like, y'all should have never ran against me. I'm Mamdani, like, get out of here, like. Like, what happens?
I mean, I think it does happen. I think honestly, the Democratic Party is where the Republican Party was in 2012. I think it is running into its own inherent limitations. And as it ran into its own inherent limitations, you needed an insurgent. Right? Because, I mean, that's the reality of this. Donald Trump was an insurgent in a Republican Party that had ran out of ideas. They had picked your best guy, right? What's my man name from Utah? With the
damn. Yeah.
From
former Massachusetts dude.
Yeah. Parties.
Man. It'll come back.
People, but yeah, him. He had a binder full of women, right? He had a binder full of women. That was his thing. They asked, who you gonna hire? I got a binder full of women. But he was straight in at 6 o'clock. He's a senator, straight up guy. And got mollywopped by Obama.
Mitt Romney.
And, you know, the Republican Party was lost and an insurgent came. I contend the Democratic Party as an establishment outside of, there are some stars who were in the system who are just good politicians and good things. They're just, you know, the Wes Moores, the Brandon Scotts, Josh Shapiro's, like the Whitmers, like you can go on and on about them. And yes, sometimes they exist in different parts of the kind of norms of the Democratic Party. But the idea that the city of New York would be on the precipice of being run by 34-year-old Democratic socialists, I'd lost that bet every time.
Yeah.
Right? But it's an insurgency. And so my point, it's an insurgency in the same way Donald Trump was an insurgency in the Republican Party. Eventually, Trump and Trumpism and the area of grievance, right? The party of grievance, or the party that projects grievance when it does other things with money, right? Because that's the other part of that. Took over the party. Like it took over the Republican Party.
Yep.
In the same way, I think that is the existential fear of the Democratic establishment, that this can happen over and over again. Now, I don't actually think this can happen over and over again. I think he is a unique person at a unique time in a unique city that is speaking to the challenges of the population who doesn't show up because, frankly, a lot of them were either they're late to the gentrification party, right? Because, you know, the commie corridor that you talk about in Queens and Brooklyn and, you know, all these largely white kids, like let's call it a spade, largely white kids. Because he could have got all the South Asians in the desert in Queens. He could have got all the Bengali brothers up in the Bronx. That wouldn't have did this. Right? This is also about the disaffection of a number, frankly, millions or close to millions of white kids who have moral stuff and real economic stuff about the role that what New York City is going through. Acknowledging that in some worlds, people feel like they were part of the thing, that why some black folks wasn't there anyway. At some point, you got, you know, there's going to have to be some coming to figure out some of that out too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like, you could be talking about wanting something to be cheaper when it was cheap and you live there now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And there are some people who could not afford to stay there as it got more expensive. And that's not putting the value judgment on the individuals that moved in to Williamsburg. Right? We had a bird's eye view 30 years ago of Williamsburg.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not to say that those people are bad people. It's just to say now the idea of New York as a luxury product has reached a place where people cannot abide by it. And you have a person representing a solution to that problem. And so, yeah, I think, you know, there's also the reality of, you know, President Obama called him and said, listen, basically, I got your back. I know they all fronting on you, but I got your back.
Yeah.
So I would use my apparatus to support you, which is also its own interesting thing, that President Obama still has an apparatus and still has a set of people who, while again, maybe in the Democratic Party, are more partial to his view of the Democratic Party, and have then said we will work to supplant what the DNC and DCCC won't do for you in New York City. So I think that, yeah, this is a fascinating time from a political perspective.
The thing I think is really important for me about it too is, we have a simplified discussion even of what's happening, like with the last election, these other things, and Biden, and as we referenced on that, like, some folks felt, the nature of Kamala Harris's relationship was a more important issue than how she would do as a person that governs a thing, is that the realities, like, of our governments, or how, the parties are the same, and like it's all entrenched, and that it's all played from 80,000 feet. And it's like, there are things that folks with influence and position can shape from wherever, in the spectrum. But at some point, if you get the numbers, right? If you get the numbers, and you might have to fight like hell to get them. But if you get the numbers, even if them people ain't happy, they gotta, be like, well, look, if he win the whole thing, then we're gonna go over to his house party and talk to him about it. But we ain't gonna do it before, right? If they gonna, the nature of, and I think he should be lauded for what to me looks like a quite impressive ground game of getting lots of people knocking on doors and talking to folks, which is in a city that one may be inclined to believe that wouldn't matter because of its size. Oh, it's too big, But at some point, 80 some thousand people knocking doors all over starts to matter, right? Even to the degree, and at some point we got to have just a send off for our guy from Queens.
Listen, man.
This way, but that's not today, because that we just want to have a joyous conversation about just the audacity of how to behave and govern in the way that he did. But an idiot who, like it, I've in social media about videos, but the man has, and even the pieces, the speech he released, talking about being a Muslim and his experience, and it's like, look, if you want to believe it, like, if he can't get any of this stuff that he's saying done, but at least he could try, right? Like, what's the matter with trying? Like, are we the Cuomo aspect is so sort of like, but really though? I know there's a value to his name, and that there's in which I tell all my young people, you don't want Cuomo to win, you better go vote, because there's a significant amount of older folks who will be like, oh, I know Cuomo, I voted for him the governor. Yeah, I think he'll do an okay job. I mean, he was tripping with that other thing, but people be tripping. I'm gonna vote for him anyway, right? Like, you might want to think it's deeper than that, but sometimes it's not. And whatever the value of an individual, election cycle, it's an important shift in the country, if he's successful, because one can open the door to, and something that I tell, at least when I had opportunity to my super to the left, folks, I'm like, hey man, you also need to think about some of this as if you might actually win. Because if you only have you only have a plan for opposition and a plan for never being in power, what if you win and you got to make the calls? What does it look like? What do you do? Right? And as much power as New York is an outlier in New York City is an outlier in government, just because it's the biggest city in the country and all the layers to it, and so it's a different thing than being even the mayor of the only comparable things are like the mayor of Chicago, mayor of LA, mayor of Houston, and even Houston is so damn preemptive.
Right.
Yeah, it ain't.
To me, the only thing bigger than being the mayor of New York City is the governor either Texas or California. Like, to me, you're the president, you're the governor of Texas or California, which kind of means you're like governor of a country.
Yeah.
Right? And then the city of New York, which has 300,000 city employees.
Yeah. And it needs them. Like,
put it in context. The city of Pittsburgh has 300,000 people.
No, right.
It's like if you took every man, woman, and child and put them to work in New York. They all disappeared and showed up with an NTA outfit on, or showed up as a sanitary guy, or the person you paid your bills to. Like, the scale of it, and again, we get into the scale of it is so big. How can this person handle it? There's two pieces to that I think are important. The previous mayor was a state senator of a certain amount of space, and then the Brooklyn borough president.
Yeah.
As important as it is, was largely ceremonial, except as appeared to certain stuff.
Yeah.
Before that was Bill de Blasio, who I think was like what Jermaine Jones is now, like the council, something like he was like a part of government, but he did not actually govern over people. And then before that was a very, very rich guy who then figured out how to bring people in to govern it. And then before that was a FBI, like an attorney.
Yeah.
Giuliani was an attorney.
Yeah.
Right? A prosecutor.
Yeah. Prosecutor.
You get Giuliani, then Bloomberg, then de Blasio, then Eric Adams, and then Mamdani. This isn't like, but the Bloomberg was the only guy that actually ran anything of like, there was a whole bunch of people. Take however you want to perceive the Bloomberg, what's the name? He's the only person that actually had management experience.
Yeah.
So when we start to talk about this, like, oh, he doesn't have any management experience. Did Eric Adams really have management experience?
Right. Does anybody have adequate management experience for a city?
Could anyone except Jamie fucking Dimon, Gavin Newsom, or the guy down in Texas, could anyone else actually run that institution? Like, this is not a situation where there's some sort of runway to run the city of New York. Other cities, yes. City of New York, there's no wrong way to do it. Meaning, to my point is, he's going to have to get the people around him to do it like anyone else would get the people around him to execute on running the city, which is why I think it's so interesting that Obama is willing to share his apparatus to say, here are people who understand governance, which is also my PSA for the day, that people that call themselves progressives or say they're progressives, whatever term you want to use today, people have to know how to run the thing. Like you said, you can't create policies if you don't run the thing. And guess what? You got to get people to know how to run a thing when they get to the thing, which does mean horse trading, which does mean compromise, but staying close to your principles as the lens for the compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And, folks who consider themselves not like other people, so we'll just say, heck, whatever term we get to, better term emerges, have to actually think about what it means to govern and act in behalf of people. So again, we're living in a 10-month experiment. Like this Trump administration 2.0 is an experiment. We're living in one.
Yeah.
So you probably live in one in New York.
Yeah. Well, and just for the record, the contingent of our conservative brothers that super duper believe that, and then this is me talking, and they can get in their feelings if they want to, that governance doesn't matter, that you could sort of just do whatever pleases you ideologically, and there will be no, structure or whatever damage it creates, you could try to ameliorate through we just, we'll have more police, or like we'll do something else to get away from it. And I think that folks embracing that you got to get like either the current governments, like wherever you have the power to make them do the things that they need to do that are in the best interests of the people, has to be a part of the counter note to the sort of, well, we're just gonna slash and burn and get rid of this and get rid of that. And it's like, nah, like it does matter, and also an awakening to some people that like people, some of these people, and again, they ain't going nowhere, but because they ain't nowhere else to go, ain't no other New York in the United States to just go to. However, there's a billion, like New York has more people with more unworldly money in it than anywhere else in the United States, right? Like whatever that means, right? And so I remember, I think you was thinking of going to that. I'm put it like this: it was I think it was a museum benefit, but it was in a city with a lot of people that make a lot of money. And then you seen what the tickets looked like. You was like, oh damn! Like I thought I was doing good.
Oh, you talk about the Moad in San Francisco?
Yeah, the Moad. He was like, ooh, I thought I saved a little something up. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I need to live like that, right? Like there are places in this country where some folks have so much that you can't, like your scale were to be like, oh man, what if they did that? And like I'll keep it a buck. They did it in Portland. Yeah, there's some people with a lot of money in Portland that's like, yo, I'm leaving. But it ain't, and even some of them, their money is good money for Portland. They may not, they still got to get money here. This is where they at, because they may not be able to bounce out people somewhere else. Like again, that real reality around how power, influence, position, and all these things affect the society that we live in. And there's sometimes, at least to me, I think a politician going, all right, man, if you're gonna leave, man, go ahead and leave, but stop all this damn yapping. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, people out here starving, not getting what they need, and we're trying to have a society where people can get, some of us not happily, but it's like, look, we will, like, first of all, I love the subway system. It's much better access than a lot of other places. But like, let us fix the damn MTA. Like, let them try. Like, let some of these ideas, these folks don't have anywhere that will be comparable. The exercise of the sort of theoretical power that sometimes folks again like to talk about in lovely poems and at meetings in the community and stuff. Like the actualization of some of that is, you're gonna have to tell somebody that got a whole lot of money and influence to maybe even buy you off. Where you be like, well, brother, if do you want these Kawhi Leonard jobs? You know what I'm saying? What's up? You know what I mean? You might be like, oh damn, I'm gonna get one of them Kawhi Leonard jobs. I ain't gotta come. You go, right? Like the rubber hits the road for people from a, like, just again, it could be from a moral perspective, but from a like real life and real terms perspective. And I think the realities, if the man pulls through, gets the victory, some folks, obviously they're gonna throw gum in the works and do all sorts of things, but there's other people going to be immediately trying to get somebody that's down with them, in the administration somewhere, or down, Zohran, look, it was never personal. You know what I'm saying? It was never really like about you. Some people going to be like, I'm never going to talk to that man. That's politics though. That's real life. Right. Where some people's like, I ain't never going to talk to him because I think he's a, XYZ, fill in the blank. We're going to have meetings, talk real nasty about him. But what we ain't going to do? We ain't leaving New York. And we're going to fight like hell to try to get them displaced to the next election. You know what I mean? Just like it's people, basically, was it even the current Chief Justice, I think was, what's how to find it, but basically he was there with the Rights Act, and like he was either a clerk or something like that in the Nixon John when some of the first cases around the Voting Rights Act or weakening the Voting Rights Act came up. And, it's got like a 50-year beef with black folks being able to votes being protected, and they won't let it go, right? Like you can't do anything. You can't do something about it, but you can't do anything about that. If that's me, we just have to go like, what's our plan to keep what we need in place to protect our outcomes? And that's what politics is really about.
Absolutely,
it's not all this. Well, I have the morally superior ideas, so there's people to listen. I'm like, yeah, that's a good place to start. But ultimately, you got to get the numbers, you got to get the people, and people have to be motivated to get engaged. You know what I'm saying? And whatever you got to do to get them there, you know what I mean? If it's outreach, if it's education, if it's building connections, and for the things, again, that like Mamdani is doing and the way he's going about it. One, like I say, I think the brother can get it done, and I wish him the best. And you know, just New York City, man. We gonna be up in there. You know what I'm saying?
Still gonna be New York, man.
It's still gonna be New York. It's still gonna be expensive dinners and places you can't go. People don't know you, and all the other things that make New York New York. It ain't gonna change. It ain't gonna be no overnight. You know what I mean? But also, like, yo, well, what if the bottle for the free grocery draw works for part of, like, yeah, I mean, you might get a model that works for part of the city, and then, you know, somebody innovate on that. You know what I mean? This is how this stuff gets done. So you know, it's very interesting, and it may be motivational for other people to figure out, well, what's our Mamdani, you know. And then also, I think it's also very important to say, it ain't just about the ideas, it's about how he kicks it. And some of y'all, you need to be aware that just because you got them ideas don't mean you can kick it the way he kick it. So work on your kicking it, respectfully, you know.
Well, and it's also a discipline, right?
Yeah.
Like the president of the United States and his insanity, there's a discipline.
Oh yeah, yeah. He stay right on the con. He stay right on the.
He stays in. He doesn't let you off of that, right? And there's some
lots of ideas. They're great.
They're great ideas. This is the greatest country in the world. Like, and then Mamdani, he stays on point. He's telling you 3 or 4 things. He's not really. Yeah, I'm sure if you sat with the brother and intellectually going back and forth, he'd like that, but he is not making it very intellectual for you.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, I'm going to do these things. I'm going to make the buses free. I don't even know if the buses should be free. That's not me saying I don't think the buses should be free, but I don't know if the buses should be free. But guess what? We'll find out if there's a workable plan.
Right, we're going to figure this out.
Or if anyone would get on the bus, because I would tell you, I'm not getting on the New York City buses.
Yeah,
they take too long and they're wild. So that's for sure. One thing for sure, they take too long and they're wild. Now, if the opening and closing and not having to pay, quote the guys. If if not having to pay makes them faster, okay. If y'all find the money somewhere, okay. Again, going back to our conversation, politics is about scarcity. If you found the money to do what you thought was important, which would improve people's lives, right on.
Yeah.
But it's, to your point, it's the discipline and not just what you're telling people, but the way you're telling people that actually matters to them. And if anything, one should take from this, not continue to tell people the same thing, slightly remixed, because that doesn't bring people to the polls.
Yeah,
and it doesn't excite them. And it's not a politics of inclusion. It's a politic of status quo.
All right, so I think we did the thing fizzle there. So I'm gonna say, you know, stay, you know, don't go vote on Tuesday wherever you at.
Vote on Tuesday wherever you at.
And we don't really. I got like measures and stuff that ain't super duper. But I'm about to fill out my ballot and drop it in the drop box. You know what I'm saying? We drop box out here in Oregon. You know what I'm saying? Or you mail it, one of the two. And then yeah, well, so wherever you at, you know what I'm saying, go get that thing done. And yeah. Anything
in Pennsylvania, if you're in Pittsburgh, we have a mayoral election and council elections, and there's also 3 Supreme Court judges up for, which is probably one of the most important things as a bellwether that will happen in this entire country, to see if you can get the Supreme Court justices out that have been sitting for 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man K. Dot, Supreme Court Judge Diary. But yeah, so. If you're in Pittsburgh, go vote.
Yeah, man. Get out there. So with that, I'm going to say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, I'm Majestic. Good Brothers is a part of the Ask Your Oldhead podcast feed. So if you're listening, you are probably listening to the audio there. You can support the podcast by rating, subscribing, and sharing wherever you listen. You can search Justice Rajee on Patreon and become a recurring patron. And, you know, generally, yeah, you get it. You get it. If you're listening now, you get it. So thank you for tuning in. And, you know, Don't be a low belly, good for nothing that's out here banging on people that don't have enough food. It's terrible. And go help somebody. Go pick up a couple extra cans or whatever have you, and give it to somebody that needs it. Tough times. Peace.